It's been very difficult. We've had moments which have been very, very tough. We've kind of tried to make the best of it. You know, there's always opportunities. There's always ways to turn challenging situations into positive situations. And I think, you know, that's where often the opportunities are. At the time, the majority of vegan food in London was, you know, traditional vegan restaurants, which would say, we're a vegan restaurant, come in, you know, and mostly what you'd find in there would be just people who enjoy eating vegan food. To break into a more mainstream audience, you kind of have to find a way to translate that to people like me. It's not just having a great menu, having a great brand, having a strong Instagram, having lots of customers. It's running a business. And Rachel and I are honest. We have a blog on the website as well. So you know, we try and kind of open the doors as much as possible and be as transparent as possible. And I think that's really resonated with people. Absolutely. They trust us. You know, I think we're a trusted brand.
Our eating habits are changing. We're demanding better dining experiences, and the food market has never been so competitive. Starting and succeeding with a food business is challenging, but some determined and passionate entrepreneurs are flourishing. These people have big dreams, big passion, and big drive. They are disruptors, change makers, and innovators. They see a positive future. Many say that food business is too risky. Some say that it has huge rewards. Are you up for the challenge? I've just had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Neil POTTS from the Vurger Co, a vegan restaurant group now in the UK. They've done extremely well, coming from a place where they had zero experience in restaurants. They got an idea whilst traveling in California. Neil had some stomach issues and he noticed a massive change in his health from eating plant-based foods. They came back to the UK and set up a street food stall, and really off the back of that, the success of that, have gone on to develop a really strong business that's constantly iterating, developing. They now have a range of products. They had meal kits during COVID, and they've actually just launched a restaurant during COVID in July 2020. So it's a great story of how you can become very successful in hospitality with little or no experience. It's just really getting in there, learning quickly, and focusing on the right things at the right time. So very interesting story. The Vurger Co are groundbreaking and leaders in the vegan space in the UK. And I'm sure there's lots more to come with the Vurger Co. I'm sure they're going to be a even more prominent and very successful concept in hospitality. So sit back and enjoy. So Neil, doing research on you the last few days, I think it's phenomenal the amount of work you've done over the last 18 months or so. Like launching a restaurant in Brighton, I don't know how you've done that. The products, the meal kits, even surviving as a business. Like it's really amazing, I think.
Thank you.
So I guess first off, like how did you personally, and Rachel, obviously your partner, how did you get through it personally, and how are you feeling at the moment?
It was tough, you know, there's no doubt about it. We've had a very tough 2 years, 18 months. We're lucky in a sense. Rachel and I are partners, you know, in life as well as in business. So we kind of had each other, which at times is difficult, obviously, in other ways. But this last couple of years especially, has been really kind of everything, because we've been able to kind of lean on each other. And that's frankly how we've got through it. You know, it's been very difficult. We've had moments which have been very, very tough. Lots of highs and lows, but yeah, as you say, we've kind of tried to make the best of it. You know, there's always opportunities. There's always ways to turn challenging situations into positive situations, and I think, you know, that's where often the opportunities are. Okay.
Yeah. So was that your mindset as soon as it kind of hit, that you were thinking, what are the opportunities or what's the positives I can get out of this? Or?
No, that came a bit later. I think the immediate mindset was our team and safety and customers. Yeah. So very quickly we heard the announcement, I forget the date, but March 2020, and we immediately closed all the stores, which was not necessarily what everyone else was doing, because we kind of swam in a slightly different direction, I think, to most, which was, we didn't know at that stage what it was. We didn't know how dangerous it was. We didn't know, you know, any of the kind of things that we know now. So for us, it was just a case of, well, if we can't guarantee, the basics of our staff safety at work, then how can we make them come to work?
Sure.
So for us, that was important. We just decided, and this was before we knew about furlough or anything like that. We closed the stores and we told our staff they'd still get paid. And yeah, that was a big decision for us, but we've always tried to kind of lead with, doing the right thing as much as we possibly can. It's not, it's not always possible. Sometimes you've got to compromise a little bit, but we really tried to kind of make sure we did the right thing in that scenario. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So staff first, and then
it was at that time. Yeah.
First, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up in Wales, obviously yourself and Rachel.
Yeah.
Was food or entrepreneurship in the blood from an early stage, or is that something that came later?
A little bit of both. Food, yes. Food in Wales and most people is a huge deal. Families and gatherings and holidays and things like that. We're always around food. So yeah, food has always been a huge passion of both of ours. But entrepreneurship, I don't think it's not in the blood. It's not in the family or anything like that.
Sure.
I've always been interested in starting a business. I started a couple actually before this. We've done a property company, we've done a cleaning company, all things that kind of came and went. Right. But
this was together, or
no? This was just me at the time. But Rachel was there. But no, this was just me. And the cleaning company went okay for a little while. But yeah, you realize you have to be very passionate about what you're doing. It's too hard. The hours are too long. The pressure is too much if you don't love what you're doing. So yeah, those things kind of were me dipping my toe in the water and kind of scratching that itch a little bit to do my own thing. And then I went back into a job for a while, quite a long while. And then yeah, we gradually kind of naturally found our way back to entrepreneurialism, and we did that together. We were kind of having that itch at the same time. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. And I know you went to university and you were working 5 years or so in the banking sector, Rachel in retail.
Yeah.
What was that spark of inspiration then to say, okay, well, now is the moment that we need to do it?
Yeah, so we were kind of both moving towards wanting to do something for ourselves anyway. We were approaching 30. Rachel had been working as a fashion buyer in the luxury sector mainly, so she worked in Harrods, and she moved to Dubai. She came back, and I think that when she came back into a startup. So it was a fashion startup, which at the time, this was, 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, they were doing luxury dresses but for rental, which was very innovative at the time, and is only now, they were a bit early, I think is what happened. They were kind of too early for the market, so now that's a thing. But it wasn't quite getting enough traction then, but she loved it. I mean, she loved the ability to use her own experiences and use her kind of career that she'd built so far, relationships in the industry, which are very important. But then turning that into kind of a new innovative way to deliver something to customers, which ultimately is what we do now. So from a retail perspective, a brand perspective, Rachel is everything to do with our business. She's everything you see. For us then, in terms of what actually clicked us over the line, was my health issues had been going for a long time, like years. I'd been having really bad stomach pains, really bad kind of issues when I ate different foods. And we took this big trip to celebrate our 30th birthdays, which are quite close together. And we went to California. We spent 2.5 weeks or so, 3 weeks over there, and just traveled. We drove everywhere. We ate loads of different things. And at the time, I was a huge meat eater. And I mean, everyday meat. And yeah, we just naturally found ourselves eating more and more plant-based food. This wasn't the intent to go there. We didn't go there thinking we're going to eat everything vegan, but we just kind of happened to. And the reason for that is because at the time, again, 2015, they were doing this, I think, better than anyone else, which is creating restaurants and creating experiences that aren't, well, this is a vegan restaurant, come in all vegans. It was just a restaurant. It was a great space, great music, great atmosphere, full of people. People didn't care that it was vegan or not or whatever. It was just great food. And that for us was like really eye-opening on that trip. We were just there and thinking, wow, this is amazing. I eat loads of meat and I don't care that I'm not eating meat. Okay.
And were you relating this at the time to the UK and thinking, well, this could work in the UK, or was it more just, wow, this is
starting to. So then I basically, as a byproduct of eating all of that food, realized that my stomach was infinitely better. So then kind of came back, and we were both, Rachel was pretty much vegetarian anyway. She didn't eat a lot of meat. But we came back to London, and I was like, well, I've got to keep trying to do this because this is making me feel good, and that wasn't enough of a driver for me because the pains were so bad before. So yeah, we came back to London, started looking around. There were some vegan restaurants, of course, it wasn't kind of completely absent, but at the time the majority of vegan food in London was, traditional vegan restaurants, which would say, we're a vegan restaurant, come in, and mostly what you'd find in there would be just people who enjoy eating vegan food, which is fine, everything has to start somewhere. But then I think to break into a more mainstream audience, you kind of have to find a way to translate that to people like me, people like me who wouldn't respond well to being told to be vegan. I respond well to having great food and going, wow, that's vegan. So I think there was just that slight change for us, and we didn't really see that here.
Sure.
It was fairly common in the US at the time, but not so much here. So that was us for really. We kind of just thought there's a huge gap here to create something that is, really appealing to so many different people. And that was was kind of the birth.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then straight off the back of that, then you went into street food. I guess
yes.
A bit of planning phase and then launched street food. 2016.
Yes, summer 2016. So we basically found that we want to try and do this. We want to try and see what's possible here, see what the market responds to. We didn't have a load of money to spend. We couldn't have just opened a restaurant on day one. We're also not chefs, although we're super passionate about food and decent home cooks. We're not chefs. So yeah, for us that was kind of an obvious way to get out there, and just start testing things and start seeing what works, what doesn't work, start seeing what people want and what they respond to and what London's ready for, frankly. So
Sure.
We did that in Tottenham, which was a lot of fun. Well,
amazing.
Mainly in Tottenham, some other places as well.
Yeah.
But
I think it's great street food in terms of getting feedback, like instant feedback from a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
And also comparing against other operators kind of on the strip or in the market that you're in.
Yeah.
You really see where you're at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Rachel and I were kind of making everything and serving it as well. So we were kind of getting that 360 connection to everything basically.
Okay. And what would you say was the biggest thing that you learned or you developed off the back of the markets?
I think we learned very quickly that there was a market.
Okay.
People were very passionate about what we were doing. They were coming back every week to see us.
Yeah.
So that was good. We learned that hospitality is hard and very tiring. But yeah, I think we just started to learn more about the menu really and kind of what was working, what wasn't, and that kind of got us on a good track to, well, iterating. We're always iterating, but getting to a point where the menu was really good, so that we could actually launch the brand properly.
Okay, makes sense. But you always had that kind of end vision or that growth path in mind.
Yeah,
so this
for sure.
was specifically kind of testing, validating.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And for us too, we were brand new to it. So I think for us, if we'd done it and hated it, then that would have told us all we needed to know. Yeah. But we felt the opposite. So yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you took a step up, I guess, in terms of doing pop-ups and restaurants.
Yes, we did.
Why take that approach rather than continuing to, I guess, scale up in markets, just do live markets and festivals and things like that?
Yeah, I think for us to kind of, at the time quit our jobs and do something full time, I think in our minds it was always a restaurant. I don't think we ever saw it as, scaling up to 100 markets, which by the way is a super profitable business in itself. Can be even more profitable than the restaurant. But to me, that's not the bit I enjoyed. I didn't enjoy the packing the van and doing all of that stuff. So for me, it was like it had to have a home.
Sure.
But yeah, we sort of very quickly moved on that track because customers were saying, where do I get the full experience? When will you do milkshakes? When will you do all the other stuff that we couldn't do on a market stall? We were literally just selling burgers.
Okay.
So we had so many ideas and we had so many kind of thoughts for where the brand could evolve, but we couldn't do that from a stall. So that's really where we moved into Popups, which gave us a great opportunity. I mean, it's effectively a restaurant, but at no capital expense. So.
Okay. Did you guys do that yourselves as well, or did you have more operational minded or experienced people coming in? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. We did it all ourselves. We prepared all the food still. I was in the kitchen, Rachel was front of house. We hired some kind of part-time staff to help us, but yeah, essentially did it ourselves, which was again important. You have to.
Sure.
You have to understand your business. You have to understand who your customers are and what they want. So for us that was really important.
Okay, makes sense. And then I want to talk about funding. I know probably in those days securing funding through banks or even investors is probably challenging, being a vegan concept.
Yeah, true.
It was obviously new to market, it was quite niche. I guess that equates to risk to some extent.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on that, but also the crowdfunding, which you've smashed now a couple of times.
I think we did it once.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it once, but at the time, 2016, it was not a new thing, and crowdfunding existed, but at the time we were the biggest and fastest restaurant raise, and especially vegan restaurant raise. So yeah, it was fairly new-ish for restaurants to be doing that at the time. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you gain that traction on the crowdfunding so quickly? Was it through social media or
a little
marketing
bit?
Or?
Yeah, a little bit. So Rachel's like very good at brand and kind of building that side of things. So she's still, like, back to this day, manages the Instagram and things like that herself. Okay. And basically we found that, as well as learning about the business and learning what direction we needed to take and iterating the menu and learning about our customers, we were also building a following. So we were getting people coming to the market every week, the pop-ups every week. And by the time we got to the crowdfunding, which was, I think, early summer 2016, we had 10 or 15,000 Instagram followers, which for us has always been a big thing. It's always been very important. But yeah, we found that really made a big difference. We had maybe 10 or 15,000 pounds or so tied up before we started the campaign. Yeah. And I know they've tightened this all up now. I think you have to have a really specific number before you can actually have the live campaign. But yeah, we were very small, and then just very quickly it launched. We had a big kind of buzz. We did lots of events beforehand to kind of get the word out there as best we can. We did some press. Yeah. And yeah, it just took off. It was great.
Okay, amazing. It was phenomenal. Yeah. It was over 2 days or something. You smashed it.
Yeah, we set a target. I think it was 180,000 initially, and we did that in 24 hours. Wow. And then we extended to 300,000, which we did in 3 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, it was. We were very grateful. We were prepared. We had events planned for the whole month. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we were grateful to close it in much faster time.
Fantastic. So then you opened Shoreditch 2018. Yep. And soon after Canary Wharf, the same year. So going for it. Yeah. Off the back of the confidence of the crowdfunding.
Sort of. Yeah, Canary Wharf was intentional, but it was, the timing was accidental, I'll say, because we opened Shoreditch. It was going really well. We had a really good summer. We opened in March, I think and then through the spring and summer was really good. There was a lot of noise about the brand because it was quite different, and lots of people going there, and we had a lot of press at the time. And then Canary Wharf just happened to be turning one of their big retail stores. I think it was like Banana Republic or something like that. It was a huge 5,000 square foot space they had in one of their malls. So they decided to turn that into a food court, for want of a better word, quite an upscale food court. So they would have, in their mind, instead of having all the big chains that they have there already, they would turn to independents to make their food offering a little bit more interesting for their, fairly refined clientele there, I guess. Sure. So yeah, they came to us, we were super lucky. We had some good agency contacts with property and things like that. They came to us and they said, Canary Wharf are looking for a really great vegan operator. We were looking to grow, and Canary Wharf at the time was superb. It's a very consistent, easy place to do business because between certain hours you're going to be really busy. You can staff up for that. It's very consistent. It's very predictable. So yeah, for us it was kind of maybe a bit earlier than we would have gone otherwise. Okay.
But the opportunity
was there, and we thought, well, it's a good one, so we'll take it.
Makes sense. Yeah. And in terms of choosing, I guess, locations in general. Are you specifically following vegan demographics to an extent? Obviously with Brighton you are, but is that kind of very important in terms of strategy, or is it more just the opportunity?
It's a bit of both, yeah. I think, we do pay attention to vegan demographics. They change all the time. And I mean, to be honest, most of the cities in the UK now are pretty good. There's options everywhere. So I think in the early stages, yes, I think that was a big thing. And Brighton was, obviously a really obvious one for us. But now less so, and now it's much more about the demographics of the city in general. A lot has changed in the last 18 months as well. Lots of people have moved out of London. Lots of people are going to different cities to do new jobs or to live or whatever. So yeah, for us it's about kind of just finding the right city now and finding the right location within that city, because that's also really important.
Sure, makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And at that stage it's relatively quick growth, 2 sites in a year, just off the back of pop-up restaurants. Yeah. What kind of challenges did you encounter? And in particular, you're not so experienced in restaurants in terms of career. It's relatively new for you in terms of fixed sites.
Definitely.
What was kind of your biggest challenges, and how did you overcome them?
So many. funds are always a big challenge. I think when you're growing anything, especially a restaurant, which is very capital heavy up front, funding is always a huge challenge. So that's a thing that's prevalent through the whole journey. But I think in terms of, you know, getting to grips with operations, really, it's not just having a great menu, having a great brand, having a strong Instagram, having lots of customers. It's running a business, and really kind of being very tight. You know, you'll know restaurants are very slim margins in most cases. So you've really got to be tight, you know, and it took us a while. It took us a while to really implement the right systems, implement the right processes, you know, make sure we were doing the right things along the way to not lose money, frankly. So most of kind of 2020, just after we opened Canary Wharf in December 2018, most of 2019 was, you know, just learning. Basically, we were just refining what we were doing. We were obviously looking for new things, but we weren't going to open anything else in 2019 because it was just, we were so busy with getting to grips with what we had.
Wow, it's like a crash course.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good. And in terms of, I guess, making that a success, I guess, in such a condensed period of time, was there one thing that, or a couple of things maybe you put it down to, like that you really focused on getting right in those early days?
I think for us a big thing, well, there's probably two aspects of it. One is a financial aspect, which is that we didn't kind of overcommit. So Shoreditch and Canary Wharf and Brighton to an extent are small sites. You know, we didn't want to take anything that was too huge, too expensive, you know, too capital heavy to fit out. So we really were very, very disciplined in the sites we were taking on initially. So that's really helped, because even in the last 12 months, it's been easier to manage sites which don't drain cash really quickly. So yeah, for us that was a big thing, and I'm proud that we did that quite well, because it's obviously tempting to take, you know, the shiny site in the perfect location in Covent Garden or whatever, but it's often not the right thing to do. And then on the brand side, I think we've done really well to, you know, create a brand that people can buy into, but also people can trust. You know, they come to us, yeah, it looks great on Instagram, but how does it taste? Well, it actually, I'm biased, but obviously in my opinion, you know, the food's the best we're the best at what we do, I think. So for me, that's a big thing, because when customers come and they see it on Instagram, that's one step, getting them through the door, getting them to come back with their friends, and you come back in 6 months' time to try the new special. You know, that's based on the food. So for me, I'm really proud that we were able to do that as well.
Makes sense. And in terms of Rachel and yourselves, so your roles, so obviously starting off in street food, packing the trucks, like you're saying, doing everything. How have those roles changed now over the last few years?
They have, So we, as you say, we started in street food, so we were pretty much both doing everything, whatever needed to be done. We still do to an extent, and we're still in this process of like evolving the roles, and we're still having to give away a little bit more control kind of all the time, which is difficult when it's, you know, something you've kind of grown from nothing. But no, we have evolved. So Rachel is pretty much everything you can see, everything you can taste, everything you read about the brand, everything, you know, in terms of direction of menu and things like that. Rachel sort of manages all those things. She's also now in the last 12 months taken on sort of oversight of sales of the retail products. So again, Rachel's, you know, pretty much everything to do with what you see. I'm more nuts and bolts. You know, I come from a finance background, so for me that's a more natural home. Finance, operations, you know, getting all of the kind of the things in place that we need to do to kind of make it a successful business. Property as well. I'm, you know, kind of the guy who goes out and looks at all the new stuff and tries to kind of work out if that's the right opportunity for us. So we're pretty good. I mean, we our skills kind of blend quite well, and that's always been the case. But yeah, Rachel's quite a visionary, I would say. She's very motivated. She's very kind of determined. She's a good presence to be around. And I'm sort of a bit more reserved and a bit more cautious and a bit more, you know, I suppose. Yeah, my mind just works in a different way.
So I guess you got that balance.
Exactly.
Complement each other.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. And I guess then also in terms of the other skill sets, maybe the operational skill sets, or the chef as an example, you just recruit into those positions.
We did, yeah. We've gone through lots of different, you know, versions of that. So early on, we worked with an awesome chef, Andrew Darg, who ran Vanilla Black, which was, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think one of London's first, you know, fully vegetarian at the time restaurants. Brilliant. I mean, just a brilliant chef, you know, top quality, could make food in any restaurant in the world, like top quality.
Yeah.
He and his wife actually were extremely helpful for us early on. They did a lot of work, you know, they did a lot of support with us on developing the menu. And when you talk to a chef, you know, most people can make something at home. We're okay, you know, we're not great chefs, but we're okay. But when you then bring a proper chef into the mix, who take what you've done and just elevate it, you know, you often can't even tell what they've done, but they just elevate it to a level which is like, wow, that's actually really good.
Sure.
So yeah, we worked with him for probably 6 months or so prior to opening Shoreditch.
Okay.
Just to kind of get everything, you know, up to a decent standard.
Yeah.
Then, since then, pretty much we've been working with a chef called Gaz Oakley, who's fairly sort of prominent vegan, I suppose.
YouTuber?
He hates that that's what it is, but yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he came from a chef background, but started expressing himself through Instagram and YouTube, and of course that's now taken off. He's got recipe books and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we've worked with him on a kind of consultancy basis, but we do now have an in-house development team. So Ellie Smart, who heads that up for us, and we've also got Carolyn, her new recruit, who and both of them are working full-time on new things. So most of what you see now is those two, basically.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Brighton.
Yeah.
You launched it in the middle of COVID,
yes,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that happen? So I know you were meant to launch just before COVID,
yes,
but how did you actually get it launched in the first place?
Yes. So we'd been working on Brighton for ages, probably, you know, 6 or 9 months before that. We were due to open, I think it was Feb or March of 2020. Obviously that couldn't happen, so our builders had to go home for best part of 2 months, I think. We decided, obviously we're committed. We'd signed a lease. And Brighton's a great place. If you went to Brighton at that time, you'd see that it wasn't actually anywhere near as quiet as London was. And I think that was true of most places I visited in the country. People were getting on with things much better than London was. And I don't know what the reason for that is, but we definitely had some confidence, and Brighton's always been somewhere where we've been very confident that we'd do well. We also chose a great site, so the site is, you know, very prominent, really in a busy area of the city. So yeah, all the ingredients were there. Of course, we were coming off a very, very heavy lockdown, so we didn't know what to expect, and we were kind of prepared for anything. We had some rent-free built into the agreement, so you know, the pressure wasn't enormous, but we were excited to kind of move forward and keep growing. Okay. But yeah, it went really well from the start. Brighton's been awesome for us.
So you started with deliveries or meal kits?
No, I think we were open, I think it was 11th of July, so I forget exactly what the restrictions were, but I remember the restaurant being open. Okay. So I think it was open with restrictions, and then pretty soon after that, maybe it was September, where we had to close again after Eat Out to help out.
Yes.
Which was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. And then obviously the vegan space or plant-based space is growing.
Yes.
And in particular Brighton,
yeah,
one of the vegan capitals
in
the world.
Yeah.
How do you, as an up-and-coming brand, or well established at this stage, how do you stay ahead of the competition and just stand out in what's becoming a crowded marketplace? Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough in London especially because there are so many different options, and also now bigger brands doing vegan options too, which, you know, really adds to the pressure. But I don't know, I think, you know, the brand is reasonably well established. We have a really healthy kind of social media following and regular customers who come to us all the time. You know, that in itself is quite strong. So I think every time you do something new, every time you think of something else, or every time you release a new product, like a retail product, people flock to it just through virtue of our Instagram and our existing customers. But I think quality, right? You have to keep innovating. We're always working really hard. We've invested really heavily, probably disproportionately, in production and development, right from the start. Okay. So for us, that's always been a huge thing. We've always spent far more, I think, than other brands of our size on those two things. And I think it's paying dividends now. You know, we're really good. We're really fast at developing new things. We get them into stores quickly. There's already something new on the way. Our photography is now really good. We use a really good photographer. So I think all of those things really help. You know, we're kind of performing like a big brand with obviously a much smaller budget, which I think is pretty good.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you think the importance there is extending the range of products, or kind of refining what you have, or
I think
or
it can
diversifying,
be.
or what
Yeah,
exactly is it?
I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, I think you have to kind of keep evolving what you've got. You know, the core products that we have, which people buy all the time, some of our best-selling products.
Yeah.
We can't just leave those sit and just stay the same forever. So we're always kind of tweaking and evolving things as best we can.
Sure.
But always innovating, you know, there's always something new. We try and do it once a month, sometimes it's once every couple of months, but there's always a new restaurant special.
Okay.
And those specials for us are always trying to push the boundaries. Like the last month or so, we've had a pork crackling burger with actual like vegan pork crackling. Awesome. Like it's so good. And that's what you get. Then you don't just get people coming and going, yeah, fine, you know I can get something consistent there, and you don't talk about it afterwards. We get people coming and then they're wild on Instagram, you know, they're telling 6 friends, they're telling whoever, this is amazing.
And I know you have a production kitchen.
We do. Yeah.
And I think I read that you do wholesale, or you have done wholesale there as well.
Yep.
Has that stream been important to you?
Yes, it was for a little while last year. So last year we started doing meal kits, which was a pretty quick kind of innovation we turned to in the middle of the lockdowns. They were really good, but when we reopened the restaurants this year, we took a step back from it. We'll probably go back to it at some stage. Yeah. But for us, the important thing was kind of pushing customers to get back to the restaurant. Okay. So that's why we paused on that. But yeah, in terms of the production kitchen, we've done little bits and pieces along the way. Like we did a collaboration with Yard Sale Pizza. We've done, you know, patties and mayonnaise for the Hoxton Hotel. Yeah. You know, things like that are nice, but they're not like the main driver. I think probably in the future we could make more of that. Sure. And really kind of push harder on that. But for us, the focus has been the restaurants and the retail products. Yeah. Okay,
makes sense. Yeah. And you mentioned there the collaborations, the Hoxton as an example. Yeah. And I want to get into the brand, because I think you've done amazingly well in terms of the following and the tone that you have. Yeah. That you are making noise in the vegan space, and you are front runners in that space to many extent. Yeah. What is your approach in terms of building that brand, and like even the type of content, images that you get across? Is it quite specific, or is it just more of a kind of intuitive process?
It's very deliberate, I would say. Yeah. Rachel, as I say, is kind of overseeing that whole process still. We have a phenomenal brand director who's actually based not in the UK, but is an old friend of Rachel's, who kind of we took on full time about two and a half years ago. Okay. So she is visually phenomenal. She comes again from a fashion background, but she's a phenomenal kind of graphic designer. So everything visual is coming from her. But yeah, I mean, it's a collaboration. You know, Rachel is very deliberate about what goes on the Instagram. But the most important thing we've always found right from the start is authenticity. You know, we very rarely just pay for things that, you know, to boost numbers or whatever. Like we don't do that very often. I think the most that we do is we'll work with, you know, influencers or people who we think could kind of represent the brand quite well. We do that a little bit, but we don't sort of pay for static numbers. That's just like, it's not authentic. So for us, that's always been a big thing. What we say on the Instagram, you know, the pictures you see on the Instagram, that is what you'll have in the store. Sure. And that's really important to us. And we try and be as honest as we can. Rachel and I are honest. We have a blog on the website as well. So, you know, we try and kind of open the doors as much as possible and be as transparent as possible. And I think that's really resonated with people. Absolutely. They trust us, you know. I think we're a trusted brand.
Absolutely. I think if you lead with the brand, which I think you're doing, then it gives you the ability to leverage that, to have these products and meal kits and whatever else is to come. Exactly. It's kind of, everything's kind of coming from that, which is kind of sitting at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I know you do like festivals, and you're also Virgin mentors now as well.
Yes.
So is that all kind of just kind of a way to build a brand and diversify even more, or?
I think they're two separate things. Yeah, the festivals are cool. I mean, we don't do them very often. We're very kind of picky. In fact, we haven't done one, well, now especially, for a long time. But we do things like we've done the Lululemon festival quite a few times, and again, there's just such a you know, a synergy with their customers. You know, a lot of their customers are our customers, so that made a lot of sense. We did Wilderness Festival, which is, you know, awesome, full of people, full of food and great things. So we've done that before. Stylist Festival, things like that. So we're quite kind of picky about it. We we don't have a festival team who are out there all the time. We kind of do it on
a,
yeah, exactly. It's fairly ad hoc, but when we do it, we do the right ones.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think, you know, in terms of kind of growing that side, maybe in future that will grow. But for sure, you know, that's been a good thing in the past to do. They're very intense festivals, but they're quite lucrative. They can be quite lucrative. So yeah, we're always kind of have an open mind about those things, for sure.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I guess, the word vegan and plant-based and the differences and even perception of both. So I notice you say vegan. I think 100% of the time. You don't use plant-based.
We've been both. We've been through both.
Okay. But because I think the way I see it going is more the plant-based because there's a potential negative association with vegan.
For sure.
What's your opinion on that space? Where do you think it's going? In terms of the brand representation and messaging around it?
Yeah, I think you could go either way now, to be honest. I think we started saying plant-based, you know, 4 or 5 years ago for that exact reason. You know, we were brand new to being vegan. So for us, as you said, the word vegan was a little scary. And I think at the time was for people too. But I think as we've gone on, we've kind of, not that we weren't proud in the beginning, we were super proud. We were always very clear that we were vegan. But I think you get to a point where you're established enough to say, we're a vegan business, you know, and we're proud of that. And we represent more than just being a business, you know. Of course, we want customers to come and enjoy, and we want all of that stuff as well. But we're vegan throughout the business, you know. There's no, everything's authentic, even behind the scenes, you know, even in our office, even in our production kitchen, whatever, like nothing isn't vegan in our business. So that's kind of why we then started merging into saying, actually, we're comfortable saying this now. And I think what you're starting to see is big brands are saying it as well now. So I don't know, we're pretty fluid with it. I think we do use the words interchangeably. Maybe there's some purists out there who would say there are differences between the two words. I think vegan maybe has a wider kind of connotation. Plant-based is maybe more food specific. I don't know, maybe it's my kind of analysis of it, but I don't think it matters. I think you can use both, and I think time will tell, right? Time will tell what becomes the kind of word that people latch onto most, but we're fine with either, I think.
I would agree. I think for me personally, the vegan it's almost a way of being, and it's kind of everything around that. Where plant-based is more food specific.
Exactly.
Very good. Interesting. Where do you see the vegan space going then? Because obviously it's still a relatively small market, a few percent of the population. So massive growth potential.
For sure.
Do you see that kind of exponential growth curve continuing, or how do you see it going?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do. I think there's many different ways that it happens, right? There's many different companies trying to do many different things. You know, you're also getting people creating meat in a lab now. Which again is blurring the lines, but it's phenomenal science. You know, I think the future potential is enormous. I think where things will start to accelerate even more than maybe they are now is over the next few years we're going to see increased pressure environmentally, you know, sustainably. So I think on those kinds of lines, you're going to see more and more people realizing the connection between, you know, eating beef, for example, and the environment, which I never had before. I fully admit, before I was vegan, I had no idea about that kind of thing. I just assumed, you know, cows are in field, whatever, they live and they die, and you eat them. But I you know, if people just take the time to just understand the connections between food and environment, and then the environment and our future, frankly. I think that's really where the biggest pressure is going to come and the biggest change is going to come.
Okay, interesting. And do you see, I guess, vegan kind of coming into like all food chains, like kind of as a prominent kind of category, or?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, we actually went to Dishoom last night, and I mean, they had a vegan menu anyway, but every time I go there, there's like new items, extra items, and it's phenomenal. So
it's becoming a core part of the menu.
I think so. I think so, and I think they're going to have to, you know, unless you're something really, really hardcore. Maybe, I mean, KFC even has a has a vegan burger. So, I mean, I think they're going to have to, because I think customers do demand it now.
Okay. And how is the current business at the moment? So we're hopefully coming out of COVID, towards the end of it at least anyway. How is it doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's, you know, obviously we're still not quite back where we were before.
Yeah.
And we've had a hammering like everybody else over the last 18 months to 2 years. So yeah, it's been a tough period, but now things are going well. Brighton is very busy. Shoreditch is really getting there, and Canary Wharf in the last few weeks has really changed. There's a lot of people back there now. Nowhere near again who were there before, but it's getting better. So we're definitely seeing green shoots. We're definitely seeing positive movements. So we're very optimistic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Have to be, yeah.
And what about the staffing crisis? Obviously, it's a major critical issue at the moment.
It is.
And we mentioned just before we came on here that it's a little bit easier that you're in the vegan space and people kind of latch onto that or attracted to
definitely.
that. Yeah. How are you dealing with that at the moment?
It's been tough. It's been tough. We were very lucky for kind of 2 years plus. We had a very, very stable teams. Okay. We had very, very low turnover. We still have low turnover. But what I've found is the pandemic has changed what people want from their job. A lot of people just got to the point where they were like, I don't want to work in a restaurant anymore. I'm going to go back to uni, or I'm going to go do something completely different. So I think we had a lot of that earlier in the summer. We had a lot of change in our teams, but that period then of finding a lot of new people quite quickly, that's really hard right now. If you're looking for a few people at once, that's very difficult.
Okay.
There's people out there, but we've never been a brand that just hire a pair of hands.
Yeah.
We're very, very deliberate and very careful about who we hire, because it's very important to us that they represent the brand to our customers. Because again, that goes back to the authenticity point. I don't want customers coming into the store and getting a rubbish service. So that's why we care a lot about that. But we've been very lucky. We've found a lot of really good people in the last 2 months.
Okay.
And now thankfully our teams are pretty stable again. But yeah, look, we're opening a new store hopefully soon, and we're going to need to hire 15 people. So it starts again. But it's very tough. I think there's lots of factors. Everybody kind of knows them to death now. But
what's your outlook for it? Do you think visas are going to be relaxed a little bit, or
I don't know. I think they're going to have to be, or something, because there's no give at the moment. And also you've got companies like Tesco who are able to come in and give people like £1,000 signing on bonus. Restaurants can't do that, it's crazy. So and as you know, the margins just don't work. I would love to pay people £20 an hour, but I can't. We just can't. Otherwise, we won't have a business.
Sure.
So yeah, I think there'll be a bit more struggle for the next few months, maybe. I think the government will get to a point where they'll have to maybe bring down the salary threshold for visas or something like that.
Sure.
Which isn't a huge concession on their part, but would also help to grease the wheels of getting people in again, because it's very difficult. We get next to no applicants now from EU countries.
Wow.
Or like very, very few.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something has to be done.
Which is sad, Never mind the staffing crisis and the visa problems. Like that to me is really sad.
Yeah.
Our business thrives when we have loads of different people from loads of different countries, and I think it's really sad that we've kind of got to a place where we're kind of putting the drawbridge up and keeping people out. It just doesn't make sense to me. But there we go. That's another.
I think there has to be some
conversation.
Government intervention.
I
and
think
solution.
so. Yeah.
The market or the population is not there in the UK that want to work in hospitality.
Yeah, agree completely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what then is the future for the Vurger Co? What's the growth plans? You mentioned a new site.
Yeah, lots.
Pipeline.
Yeah, lots. So we announced a few weeks ago actually our new site, our next site, which is in Manchester.
Yeah.
Another awesome city. Always loved Manchester, but in the last kind of 5 years, it's become this awesome place. I love it so much. Full of great people, full of excitement for vegan products, and just loads of good properties. So we found a really good space. We had a really good deal, which again was a consequence of an opportunity, I suppose, that came out of COVID. So that for us, we're continuing to add new sites, probably at a rate of maybe 3 a year, something like that, 3 or 4 a year, hopefully in the future. But the retail products for us is another kind of exciting thing. We launched those last year. They're growing. We're adding new products all the time. We're adding new retailers all the time. We're selling in the US now. We're shipping to the Middle East soon.
Wow.
It's exciting. There's been lots of hard times, but there's lots of things to look forward to as well.
Fantastic. Sounds like world domination is on the cards.
We're just trying
the
to keep...
sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. I think that's a nice way to put it. I think we don't pay too much attention to, what the end game is or any of that stuff. We're kind of just going with what we feel is the right thing at each moment. And yeah, we're riding a bit of a wave at the moment.
Sure, sounds good. I think what's kind of come through this whole talk or conversation is just continual iteration, continual growth, continual refinement.
And
that just kind of keeps you going and keeps you in the right direction.
Yeah, in life too, right? Like I'm always trying to learn something new, always. Otherwise it gets a bit boring, doesn't it? So yeah, we're always challenging ourselves, we're always challenging our development team. They're always challenging us too. And even the team, some of our staff come to us with a lot of great ideas too. They come and they say, oh, customers said X, Y, and Z, so why don't we do this? And then we go, oh yeah, great. We're very open, we're very open to where the idea comes from. So that's good.
Okay, very good. And if you were to give somebody a bit of advice, let's say maybe has an idea or some stomach issues, what piece of advice would you give them to kind of get going and to kind of start out on that journey?
Yeah, I think it's important, to know exactly what you're doing and why. I think they're the kind of two big questions to answer in the beginning. I think if you're just coming out with like a Me Too product, you're going to struggle, unless you have a ton of money that you can throw at it. But if you're coming at it from a background like we did, then you really got to have something slightly different or have something which makes you unique. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel for that. Nobody needs you to reinvent what a restaurant is, but you have to have a concept that, resonates with people and is something slightly, just perks people's interest a little bit. So I think for that, and then once you've done that, quality. It's everything. You have to be good enough to get people through the door, but you have to be even better to be able to keep them coming back. And especially with new things coming all the time, there's, you've really got to try and focus a lot on that. So they would be the things I'd say.
Great advice. Oh, fantastic. Great to speak to you, Neil.
You too. Thanks for having me.
It's a really interesting, very exciting journey.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots more to come as well.
Absolutely. Hope so.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.